Discover the incredible power of focus, 7 surprising secrets that transform lives forever. Kelly squinted at the flickering fluorescent lights in the diner as she balanced 3 plates on one arm. The endless cycle of taking orders, delivering food, and clearing tables blurred into a monotonous haze, and her heart sank with each passing hour. They expected her to smile, to charm the locals with small talk, while her mind raced with thoughts of bills, daycare fees, and her son Jamie's constant need for new shoes, new school supplies, a life beyond survival. Each time she caught Jamie's wild imagination glowing through his eyes, a voice inside whispered that she was failing him, trapped, wielding a spatula instead of a camera. Sighing, she escaped to the back room during a rare lull. The confinement of the apron's fabric tugged at her, weighing her down as she wiped down the counter. Yet a little thrill tingled at the memory of sorting through her father's things last week, an old trunk brimming with nostalgic clutter. She felt the rustle of paper, the unexpected thrill of discovering an old photography book, its pages yellowed and worn. The images breathlessly captured moments she'd only dreamt of. Wouldn't it be incredible, she thought, if she could convey feelings like that? An instinct, buried under layers of doubt, stirred within her. But doubt loomed, heavy as a storm cloud. What if this was just another dead-end fantasy? She quickly shoved the thought away, afraid to dive into what felt like a mirage, a beautiful yet unattainable illusion. She could hardly afford to dream when practical matters screamed for her attention. As the days passed, she repeatedly opened the book, sharing snippets of her work online, exploring a world that felt both electrifying and terrifying. The community rallied around her, offering encouragement that she desperately craved. Yet the supportive comments were often drowned out by her mother's skeptical voice echoing in the back of her mind. "Photography is a hobby, Kelly. You need something stable." The more she shared, the more she felt the weight of expectations, their skepticism suffocating her pursuit for joy. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Weeks flew by, and as the photography competition deadline loomed like a storm over her, the dread permeated her thoughts. Her boss had caught wind of her camera-toting escapades, each word of warning carved deeper into her spirit. "Focus on your job, Kelly. This hobby is affecting your performance," he barked, frustration boiling in his voice. The tension left knots in her stomach, eroding her will to pursue something beautiful. How could she dare compete against those with real training, with better gear? Each click of the shutter became a haunting reminder of the life she longed for, yet feared would always slip through her fingers. The stakes rose mercilessly with every moment she spent balancing her passion against her livelihood. Could she confront the storm that brewed both inside her and in every judgment-laden look? She wished for the safety of familiarity, but deep down she felt the tug of destiny whispering in her ear, daring her to take a risk. Would she embrace her talent before it vanished into the void of unrealized potential? As the tension boiled and her heart raced, she closed her eyes, willing the fleeting whisper of hope to drown out the fears that kept pulling her back. The daylight barely broke through the grimy windows of the diner, casting a dull glow that barely illuminated Kelly's face as she hesitated in the back room, the camera dangling from her neck, her lifeline to the world beyond these walls. She took a deep breath, the weight of her choices crushing yet exhilarating. The few weeks of photography practice had revealed forgotten truths about herself. Each snap of her camera unlocked parts of her she thought she'd buried for good, dreams intertwined with fears. What if she truly could channel the beauty of those photographs she found in her father's trunk? As she watched the reflections of her aspirations shimmer and fade like the flickering lights above, realization struck hard. She had to decide whether the risk was worth the potential gain. Returning to the front, she was met with the usual routine: orders, laughter, complaints, but each foreign sound felt muted, a mere backdrop to her internal storm. As she moved through her tasks mechanically, her mind drifted to the photography competition that loomed closer. The deadline wasn't just a date, it was a ticking clock, an ultimatum staring her down. Would she let another opportunity slip through her fingers? In an impulsive moment, she announced to her manager that she would be taking a day off next week, the fear of backlash choking her words, but commitment illuminating her resolve. "I just have to do this," she whispered to herself, as if the declaration alone would stave off the creeping doubts. Daydreaming through the afternoon, Kelly found herself at the edge of courage, battling the self-doubt that wrapped its tendrils around her heart. A voice echoed harshly, her mother's worries, her boss's reprimands, blending into a cacophony that threatened to drown her in despair. But through the murky thoughts, a glimmer of determination flickered. She was no longer just a waitress or a struggling mother. She could be an artist if she dared to seize it. That evening, she sat at her tiny kitchen table, Jamie sound asleep in his room, and pulled up a blank document on her laptop. Hum of the machine became her pulse, a gentle reminder that progress required commitment. With every clatter of her fingers against the keys, uncertainty grappled with hope. What would she say? How would she frame her vision? Nervously, she penned her photography essay, pouring out dreams of capturing life, a reflection of love, pain, and resilience. Each sentence felt like an echo of her heart, yearning to break free from the chains that held her down. She pictured the judges reading her words, her images glowing from the pages, and them recognizing a piece of themselves in her artistry. However, as she clicked Save, a looming shadow of fear whispered, "What if they think you're a fraud?" The thought stung, but it lit a fire inside her. She wasn't just documenting moments, she was ready to challenge the narratives that had kept her small. As days dwindled, each click of the camera seemed to usher in a tide of clarity, urging her to face the audience, to lay bare her vulnerabilities for judgment. But as the competition deadline approached, the stakes became unbearably high. The whispers of failure nudged closer and deeper. Kelly realized that the freedom of self-expression came with the weight of vulnerability. The looming storm in her mind intensified. "What if I fail?" she pondered, staring into the lens like it was a reflection of her soul. In a moment that felt transcendent, she snapped a photo of her son, joy radiating from his uninhibited laughter. This image seemed to pulsate with significance, reminding her what this journey was truly about. With renewed resolve, Kelly took a deep breath, allowing herself to cherish hope amid fear. The light might be dim, but at that moment, it felt brighter than ever. She was ready to face not only the competition, but also the depths of her fears. The impending deadline was no longer something to dread, but a doorway to possibility. Yet, behind the door, shadows danced and murmured threats of doubt. As she scrolled through her social media, an unexpected comment appeared, one that chilled her more than uplifted her. "Are you really going to try? Don't you think it's time to grow up and get a real job?" Confronted with the firestorm of ridicule and self-doubt, Kelly felt the ground beneath her shift. The pressure tightened around her throat. Perhaps it was time not just to face the competition, but also confront her deepest fears and the voices that threatened to engulf her. The moment had come. How would she respond? Would she rise or break under the weight of others' expectations? Kelly stared at her phone, the edges of her vision blurring as the words of that anonymous commenter drummed in her ears. A suffocating wave of rage and despair washed over her. Who were they to dictate what her life could be? This self-doubt gnawed at her resolve, but it also ignited a fire that compelled her to action. The determination that had briefly flickered took a sense of purpose to ignite. A stone cry, a voice that told her, "Go for it." She had heard and read enough. What would she do next? Life now surged within her, stronger and more resolute. With the competition deadline looming, Kelly knew she had to act. Articulating her path forward required more than simply taking photos. She needed a strategy. She reached for her laptop again, and the familiar hum reverberated through the kitchen. This time, instead of writing an essay, she opened a new document labeled Plan. As she typed, each word felt like a promise she made to herself. She divided the document into sections: inspiration, goals, technical skills, and creative ideas. For too long, Kelly had drifted along, passively watching her aspirations fade. Now, she was determined to grab hold of them. In inspiration, she began writing about her son, the laughter she had captured in that spontaneous shot earlier. "Children see beauty in the mundane. This is my theme," she wrote. She envisioned a series focused on the innocent joy of childhood, how even simple moments could transform into profound revelations through her lens. In the goals section, she set tangible milestones leading up to the competition. Daily photo sessions in the park, reflecting on themes of innocence, struggle, and resilience. Weeks had slipped away without a proper plan, but from now on, she would rise before dawn to find the perfect light, to capture what had been buried for too long. Kelly tackled technical skills next. Although she'd garnered some knowledge through her brief practice, she needed to refine her craft. It was time to absorb something new. A quick online search revealed countless resources, tutorials, and community groups dedicated to photography. Each click exponentially broadened her horizon, and the excitement built within her. Knowledge was power. The final section, Creative Ideas, brimmed with sound bites of inspiration. She jotted down wild concepts she'd often dismissed as too ambitious. A series of double exposures, utilizing reflections in unexpected locations, juxtaposing contrasts of light and dark. The ink flowed as her imagination poured out unfiltered. It was intoxicating to dream big once more. As more ideas poured forth, she paused, the enormity of her plans dawning on her. The path was littered with uncertainties, but just as she inhaled the fear of judgment, she felt it transform into motivation. The competition wasn't merely a test of her skills. It represented her evolution as an artist who could transcend expectations, her own and others. But just as a wave of motivation crashed around her, the nagging voice of doubt returned. The comment replayed in her mind. "Don't you think it's time to grow up?" No matter how much planning she did, those fears would shadow her every moment. Kelly was torn. Her heart raced with both excitement and apprehension. She had been granted a glimpse into the future she truly wanted, yet she grappled with the remnants of her past. What if she poured herself into this pursuit only to fail? What would that say about her? With a sudden resolve, she pushed the thoughts aside. It was now or never. She would not permit someone else's doubt to extinguish her flame. Kelly stood up from the table, her expression hardening as a new determination emerged. The fear that had threatened to paralyze her was now something she could use as fuel. Over the next few days, she unearthed her camera from its resting place, dusting off the grip. Each time she clicked the shutter, she was reminded that every shot was a lesson, every mistake merely a stepping stone towards growth. She embraced the challenge, her heart thrumming with a newfound sense of purpose. An invitation to explore, an opportunity to confront herself. Yet, even as she embarked on this voyage of photographic discovery, a new question loomed. What would she do when her past tethered her down, threatening to drag her back into the security of conformity? As she stepped out of her front door, camera in hand, Kelly felt the weight of her choices pressing down, choices that would determine not just the outcome of a competition, but the very essence of who she was. The moment of transformation loomed. How much of herself was she willing to expose? With each step forward, she began to realize that what awaited her was not merely a test. It was the unfolding of her own story, the pen with which she would write her future, trembling significantly in her hands. With the sun barely peeking over the horizon, its soft rays poured through the trees, creating fleeting patterns of light and shadow. Kelly tightened her grip on the camera as she entered the park, her heart racing in sync with the thrum of excitement coursing through her. This was it, the first step onto a path she had longed to tread but had hesitated to embrace. Today was about more than just capturing photos. It was about reclaiming her voice and asserting her existence. The damp grass beneath her sneakers reminded her of the childhood adventures she had shared with her son, the laughter echoing in her mind like a distant melody. She inhaled deeply, the fresh morning air filling her lungs and banishing the remnants of her doubts to the corners of her thoughts. What was more terrifying than capturing the beauty around her? Confronting her fears and capturing her own story, her messy, exquisite, sometimes painful path. Her camera hung loosely around her neck, like a trusted friend by her side. Each step she took ignited a recognition. She was not merely an observer, but an essential part of this scene. As she began taking pictures of her surroundings, she approached her subjects with a blend of curiosity and respect. Each frame was a manifestation of her intent, a moment she chose to seize, to interpret through her unique lens. After a while, Kelly found herself drawn to a group of children playing nearby. The carefree joy they exuded stirred something within her, igniting the creative spark she had been nurturing. She focused on the laughter, the games, the small snippets of unfiltered joy, capturing fleeting seconds that represented not just their innocence, but fragments of her own lost childhood. There was a rawness in that uninhibited laughter, a reminder of life unencumbered by expectations. She took shot after shot, pushing aside the gnawing sensation that still whispered in the back of her mind. What is the point? Who are you to think this matters? With each click of the shutter, she began to drown out the noise of self-doubt, allowing the thrill of creation to fill the void. But as she scanned through the images later that day, a creeping realization settled in her chest. The photographs were undeniably beautiful, yet they felt disconnected from her inner truth. They voiced the innocence she wanted to portray, but didn't include the complexity of her journey. Was she simply masking her fears with pretty images? The question clawed at her, challenging her perceived authenticity. How could she depict joy if she herself struggled to string together moments of fulfillment? This moment of vulnerability was a turning point. Fueled by the undeniable urge for growth, she opened her creative ideas document anew. She needed to infuse these moments of lightness with the shadows that mirrored her own experience. She had a whole life's worth of stories to tell, and it wasn't just the joyful ones. The tension brewed within her, amplifying the urgency to create something real, a narrative that was seamlessly intertwined with her challenges and triumphs. Then it struck her. This competition wasn't merely a platform for her artistic expression, but a stage for personal confrontation. It demanded honesty, an unveiling of her soul entwined in the art she produced. Every photograph captured not just moments of beauty, but also echoed her struggles, her transformations, her aspirations. As she printed some of her favorite shots and arranged them thoughtfully, a new resolution enveloped her. What if she turned her lens on the very aspects she had shied away from? Confronting painful truths or moments of self-doubt could manifest within her work. Would that reveal the most honest depiction of her journey? With focus and determination blazing in her chest, Kelly made a note in her plan: authenticity over perfection. The next day, she would step back into the chaos of her past, seeking out those shadows that continued to haunt her. It was no longer simply about pursuing a competition. It was her life laid bare. As she drifted off to sleep that night, she felt an electric thrill weaving through her, a promise to dig deeper, startlingly aware that the most significant breakthroughs often lie on the fringes of discomfort. What lay ahead compelled her with both excitement and trepidation. The time had come to face her most profound fears, to weave together the fabric of her past and present, and with a lingering smile, she whispered to the darkness, "I'm ready." With dawn breaking behind her, Kelly stood at the threshold of her own history, the park now a scenic backdrop for her impending exploration of self. Today would not just be another day of taking photographs. It would be a profound dive into the recesses of her mind where shadows coalesced with flickers of light. Armed with her camera, she felt both empowered and vulnerable, a contradiction she had learned to embrace as part of the creative process. She decided to revisit locations that had shaped her, places layered with memories both cherished and haunting. The old swing set, once a symbol of carefree childhood, felt heavy with unvoiced sorrows. As she approached, her gaze swept over the rusted chains, recalling the days when laughter was uncomplicated and free. Setting her camera to capture the poignant juxtaposition of joy and nostalgia, she snapped a photo, yet the click felt more like a gasp, a fleeting attempt to reclaim what once was. Yet, as the images developed on her screen, she found herself detached, an observer to her tumultuous past rather than an active participant. She could feel the familiar pangs of self-doubt creeping back, questioning the authenticity of her artistic endeavor. What if she only succeeded in embellishing the surface without delving deeper into the murky waters of her feelings? Frustration flickered through her like an electric current. She recalled her commitment to authenticity and felt the call of her insecurities. Wasn't the purpose of this journey to stir the hidden truths within her? Determined to not shy away from the discomfort, Kelly sought out another formative spot, the weathered bench where she had often sat alone, contemplating her choices. She sat there now, allowing the memories to wash over her. The solitude, the tears shed under a blanket of self-doubt, the moments when she felt invisible, it all pressed down on her like a weight, demanding acknowledgement. She lifted her camera once more, not solely to capture an image of the bench, but to immortalize the essence of her battle, a symbol of survival, regret, and the small victories she'd gained along the way. With each photograph she took, Kelly's understanding deepened. She connected her past and present through the lens, revealing a narrative that was undeniably hers. The rawness of her truth began to seep into her work, making her feel more alive than ever. For once, her camera wasn't just a tool, it transformed into a bridge linking her experiences and emotions. She recorded moments not just of joy, but of fear, confusion, and small triumphs over adversity. Every image held a piece of her essence. Sitting with these powerful realizations, she began drafting not just captions, but narratives to accompany her images, pouring herself into the written reflection of her journey. Each word was a catharsis, carving a path through the unanswered questions of her life. Would people resonate with her truth? Did her struggles serve a purpose beyond her own? Days faded into weeks filled with a fresh determination. Each visit to the park led to revelations layered within her photographs. She captured both laughter and tears, the growing complexity of her identity emerging through the lens. But still, doubts hovered like persistent clouds. Would this authenticity resonate with others? What if her honesty exposed her vulnerabilities too starkly, inviting judgment? On a particularly poignant day, she caught sight of a child who, like her, was grappling with the world around him. The way he hesitated at the edge of a newfound adventure reminded her of herself, paralyzed by fear. In that moment, she lifted her camera, purpose-driven by a sense of urgency to cast light on the silent battles everyone faces. With the shutter click, she felt a kinship with the child. She captured the moment, confident that showing powerful emotion meant showing her own humanity, messy, complicated, and undeniably real. This photo would showcase the silent strength amid fragility, the very essence of her transformation. As the sunlight faded into hues of orange, Kelly felt invigorated. Her path was becoming clearer. The narrative of her life was taking form, uncompromisingly real and brutally honest. She could already envision the exhibition of her life's photographs and stories. However, another thought flickered through her mind like a spark. Was she ready to unveil her story? The larger question loomed over her, filled with both promise and apprehension. The confrontation awaited, her past layered with realizations that could either liberate her or shatter her carefully constructed facade. That night, she sat with her notes, tapping the pencil on her notepad, weighing the gravity of her choices. She had illuminated the shadows, but were they ready to be displayed? The voice inside urged her forward, an echo that demanded, was she ready to reveal the woman behind the lens and confront the world with her truth? With a resolute heart, she reassured herself. The moment would arrive when she would unveil all. She took a deep breath and marked the next day on her calendar. It would be the day she would submit her work, her life laid bare. And with anticipation and fear mingling in her veins, she wondered who might be waiting to meet her on the other side of vulnerability. As the first light of dawn spilled into her room, Kelly wrestled with the events of the previous day, her heart pounding at the thought of what lay ahead. The stark white of her calendar seemed to taunt her. The day she had marked, the day she had deemed pivotal, was upon her. With each tick of the clock, she felt her pulse quicken, a steady rhythm of anxiety and ambition intertwining. Staring at her photographs, she marveled at the journey distilled within each frame. The tangible euphoria and gut-wrenching despair merged into a singular narrative, a tapestry of her battles that now demanded acknowledgement, not just from her, but from the world. Her early morning routine transformed into a practice of intention. As she brewed her coffee, she visualized the submission process, not just as an act of sharing, but a leap of faith. This was not merely about pictures, it was a profound release of her soul. An embrace of her naked truths. She wondered how much of herself still remained hidden, lurking in the shadows of her subconscious, merely waiting for the right moment to swell forward into her consciousness. With her laptop set before her, the cursor blinking impatiently on the submission page, Kelly hesitated. She could hear the whispers of doubt rising within her, reminding her of the judgments that could follow. Who was she to think her narrative mattered? Yet, beneath the anxiety lay an ember of determination that insisted on sparking a fire. After all, moments captured through her lens spoke of universal struggles and triumphs. Who wouldn't find a fragment of their own story woven into her truth? The urge to procrastinate beckoned, but she resisted. Instead, Kelly took a moment to breathe, to center herself in the present. She recalled a mantra she had once found deep in an old journal: be your own witness. Perhaps that was the art of it, challenging herself to confront her vulnerabilities rather than shy away from them. With renewed clarity, she opened her files, each image a potential knight battling her inner demons. Scanning through the powerful visuals, she unearthed a previously overlooked photograph of a weathered tree standing resilient against a tumultuous sky. It represented her, enduring through the storms of life. In that instant, she realized her narrative could provide solace and courage to others wrestling with their truths. The revelation sparked something within her, a quiet resolve transformed into a roaring ambition. With every click of her mouse, her photographs began to form a cohesive story, each accompanied by written reflections that echoed her growth. As her narratives unfolded, Kelly felt the fears that once threatened to stifle her creativity slowly dissipate. The words felt alive, reverberating through her core, affirming her right to stand proud in her authenticity. With the final written sections echoing the photographs, she hovered over the submit button, her finger poised like a diver on the edge of a highboard, ready to plunge into uncharted depths. It was a moment of reckoning. She was not only sharing her work, but confronting herself in the process. As she forged ahead, the ghost of doubt remained, a nagging companion. What if the response was critical? What if she was met with ridicule rather than understanding? Yet an undeniable pull drew her forward, the urgency to reveal her journey outweighing her anxiety. This submission would not only reflect her history, but also set her free, casting light upon decades of silence. Finally, with a decisive breath, she pressed the button, a chorus of finality echoing in her mind. The deed was done. Her truth was sent forth into the world. But even as liberation washed over her, it took with it the comfort of control, leaving raw vulnerability in its wake. In the aftermath, an unexpected surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins. She was no longer the woman standing on the edge of fear. She was the soul ready to face whatever awaited her. Her heart raced with anticipation, the uncertainty of her future laying itself bare. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, her phone buzzed, jolting her back to reality. A notification flashed. She had received a comment from the submission site. Anxiously, she picked up her phone, her breath hitching in her throat. Could it be a stranger, vulnerable in their confessions? Or could it be a critique, tearing apart the sincerity she had just unleashed? With a swift motion, she opened the message, teetering between hope and dread. Whatever awaited her beyond this moment would carve the next chapter of her evolving narrative. Kelly's heart raced as she opened the comment, her breath caught in her throat like a spider ensnared in its own web. The initial glimpse of the words sent a frisson of energy through her, a mixture of dread and overwhelming curiosity. The pixelated screen blurred momentarily as adrenaline surged, and she had to blink hard to clear her vision. "Such raw honesty! Your work speaks volumes," the commenter noted, each word a balm to her frayed nerves. She scrolled down, each line revealing not just praise, but a connection, a shared resonance with her journey. It was as if the weight she had carried alone for so many years was momentarily lifted by the acknowledgement of a stranger. This wasn't merely a response, but a mirror reflecting her truth back at her. She felt the room shift around her, her previous anxieties clashing with a brewing sense of validation. How intoxicating to feel seen, to break free from the isolating silence that had often surrounded her. Yet, paradoxically, the very act of being seen pressed upon her another layer of introspection. Was this recognition enough? Would it validate her journey or deepen her expectations? Engulfed in contemplation, she found herself retreating to her thoughts. Kelly turned away from the screen, needing to process her exhilaration. She stepped into the living room, greeted by the comfort of familiar surroundings. The framed photos on the walls, snapshots of her life, seemed to smile back at her, whispering encouragement amidst the chaotic stew of her emotions. Yet, as she stood amid the remnants of her past, the shadows of doubt emerged once more. In this moment of newfound visibility, she questioned the authenticity of her expression. What if she was simply fortunate in evoking empathy in that one individual? What if her voice faltered before a broader audience? She sank into her couch, a wave of exhaustion mingling with the lingering adrenaline. In seeking external validation, was she undermining her intrinsic motivation? Wanting to evoke change in others while also craving it for herself became a confusing duality. For Kelly, her art had always been an intimate exploration, something she poured her heart into, not simply a means to gain recognition. In a desperate attempt for clarity, she turned back to her laptop, her fingers hovering over the keys as her brain churned with thoughts. What'd she say to the next person who connected with her narrative? How could she guide them without losing her own emotional compass? Quickly, she drafted a response to the comment, putting her feelings into words. "Thank you for seeing me," she wrote, pouring sincerity into every sentence. "Your message gives me courage to keep sharing my truth, despite the fear that often seeks to silence me." Each word filled with intention helped solidify her resolve. This journey wasn't about being a mere spectacle. It was about forging a collective understanding of the human experience. After hitting send, she felt a rush of lightness envelop her. Yes, her pieces were personal, but they were also bridges to others. Every narrative penned was a thread connecting her to humanity. She realized that as she stepped into this new chapter, she was not just sharing her journey, but also inviting people to acknowledge their own truths, however fragmented they may be. Yet, the narrative of her growth remained incomplete. The moment of recognition was but a spark, igniting a deeper exploration of her purpose. Who did she want to be in this unfolding story, and what lay on the horizon, waiting for her? Just then, her phone buzzed again. Another message, this one from someone completely new. A request to connect, someone seeking to collaborate on a project focused on sharing personal narratives of resilience. The words danced across her screen, radiant with potential. As she read the message, an electric jolt surged through her. The possibilities unfurled before her like a map of uncharted territory, ready for exploration. And amidst the flicker of excitement, she trembled at the thought. Was she ready to venture not only deeper into her own narrative, but also extend her voice further into the world? Suddenly, it was no longer just about her anymore. The moment arrived, casting her into the unknown as she pondered her next steps. Would this new opportunity be what it took to elevate her voice even further, uncovering truths yet unspoken? In that instant, the echoes of her past whispered encouragement, while the future loomed with uncertainty. Now, the real question remained. How far was she willing to step beyond her comfort zone to embrace this potential? The journey ahead promised to be the true test of her growth, and she knew she had no choice but to confront it head-on. Kelly's fingers trembled slightly as she read the unfamiliar name at the top of the message. It belonged to someone whose work she admired, a creator known for weaving profound stories and shedding light on personal struggles. The prospect of collaboration felt nearly surreal. She had spent years harboring her thoughts in solitude, weighing each idea by the heaviness of introspection. Now, with this unforeseen opportunity, she faced a pivotal moment that could redefine her narrative. The notion of sharing her creative space with another person was intimidating. Despite the validation she had experienced earlier, uncertainty clouded her enthusiasm. Could she trust this person with her vision? Would they respect the vulnerability embedded in her work? These questions spiraled in her mind, each one propelling her anxiety higher. It was easy to become overwhelmed by self-doubt. The ghosts of doubt were well known to her, lurking just outside the boundaries of her creativity. Yet, as she stared at the screen, another voice emerged, a softer, more nurturing presence. This was a chance to evolve, to stretch beyond familiar confines. Might this new endeavor spark revelations she hadn't anticipated? She felt a flicker of courage igniting within her. Maybe her journey through expression was meant to broaden, intertwining with others to create something richer. She decided to respond. "Thank you for reaching out. I would love to discuss a potential collaboration," she typed, her heart pounding. With each keystroke, she felt a shiver of anticipation mixed with terror, but she pressed on. This was not simply about merging their ideas. It was an exploration of what could emerge when individual truths were shared among creators. After sending the message, she took a deep breath. Reflecting on her past, she realized how often she had shied away from opportunities like this. A tide of memories washed over her, moments of hesitance, of closing her heart to external influences. Each time she had let fear dictate her path, her creativity had dimmed. This time, however, the flicker of excitement pushed past the trepidation. Perhaps this was her moment to rewrite her own expectations. In the days that followed, the reality of her new undertaking settled in. She began to plan potential themes, imagining how her story could intertwine with the narrative of another. The thoughts sent her into a whirlwind of ideas. Each brainstorming session carved out new layers of understanding within herself, culminating in revelations about her identity and creative purpose. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of ownership over her articulation, less dictated by fear and more by courage. However, the shadows lingered still. One looming question haunted her. What if her voice was drowned out in the collaborative effort? Would her truths still resonate powerfully alongside another's? Could collaboration become a stage for her fears to emerge rather than a sanctuary for growth? Each day, the weight of these thoughts sparked fresh doubts. Then came another message, this time an invitation to a casual video chat with her potential collaborator. The prospect of connecting in real time sent her heart racing. Would they be able to establish a rhythm together? How could she ensure her voice remained prominent in the midst of this new dynamic? The night before the meeting, she laid awake, a cacophony of scenarios flooding her thoughts. Her mind raced with likely outcomes, each spiraling into worst-case scenarios. Yet beneath the tumult, there lay a stronger energy, a burgeoning resolve. She mentally rehearsed what she wanted to convey, but also reminded herself that this was about building a dialogue, not simply presenting a monologue. Kelly stalked like a tightrope walker on the precipice between fear and discovery. She understood that this conversation could not only shape her creative path, but also challenge her to amplify the voice that had so long been contained. As she turned off her bedside lamp, she whispered a mantra to herself. It was time to step into the light of possibility. Tomorrow could change everything. The moment of truth was fast approaching, and she had a decision to make. Would she reveal her authentic self, or retreat into safety? With the dawn barely breaking, Kelly felt the stirring winds of change, and she knew the journey just began. The video chat was set to begin in mere moments. Kelly paced the small confines of her living room like a trapped animal, her heart thrumming loudly in her ears. The glowing screen of her laptop seemed both inviting and menacing, a gateway to potential transformation or debilitating disappointment. She inhaled deeply, trying to quell the tremors that coursed through her fingers. As the screen flickered to life, her collaborator, Jess, appeared, exuding warmth and enthusiasm. Jess's bright smile contrasted sharply with Kelly's anxious frown, and for a brief moment, Kelly's insides twisted with self-doubt. Was she about to ruin everything? But that feeling swiftly transformed as they exchanged greetings, Jess's genuine interest in different thematic ideas instantly breaking the ice. "I'm really excited about this," Jess exclaimed, her voice bubbling with energy. "I've read some of your work and it resonates with me on so many levels." Kelly felt a spark ignite within her. She smiled, the unfamiliar compliment tightening her chest in a pleasant way. This could be the first stride toward a new direction. They began to brainstorm ideas, each suggestion rejected or refined, leading to something even richer and more layered. As Jess spoke about personal experiences and themes, Kelly found herself sharing her own stories in a way that felt both liberating and vulnerable. The discussion flowed seamlessly, yet lurking beneath the surface, Kelly recognized an old ghost. Was she truly contributing, or was she merely acquiescing to Jess's vision? The question gnawed at her, but as the dialogue progressed, a realization dawned. This was not about completely merging visions. It was about blending her truths with someone else's, crafting a multifaceted narrative that honored them both. "Your perspective adds so much depth," Jess remarked at one point, her tone urgent. "I want your voice to shine through." Unexpectedly, Kelly found her confidence bolstering with this affirmation. Instead of diminishing her identity, this collaboration was shaping it into something uniquely expansive. With renewed vigor, she began to articulate her ideas more clearly, carving out space for her voice in the conversation. The partnership felt less like a compromise and more like a dance, one that required trust in both her steps and her partner's. Through the exchange, Kelly discovered aspects of herself that had been cloaked in shadows. Ideas poured forth, a unison of creativity and courage unfurling like petals in sunlight. Each time Jess encouraged her, Urging her to delve deeper into her experiences, Kelly uncovered hidden truths, stories locked away for far too long, narratives that held the potential to resonate with others, offering solace and understanding. Yet the specter of self-doubt still lingered. What would happen if Jess's feedback started weighing on her? Would she lose her resolve? But as she found her footing in this new collaborative space, she also confronted a different fear, the fear of stagnation. Was she ready to risk everything she had built for a leap into the unknown? Eventually, the call drew to a close, both creators bubbling with raw excitement. They set a date to flesh out the ideas further, and Kelly could barely contain her eagerness. However, as she closed her laptop, a wave of trepidation washed over her. Had she made a commitment that could potentially fracture her artistic integrity? That night, her mind spun again with possibilities. What if each step forward drove her closer to revealing more of her truths? But also, what if she stumbled, unable to reclaim her narrative in the collaboration? In the quiet of her room, Kelly grappled with these questions, pulling deeper into the intricacies of what this partnership could entail. There was dynamic energy in her experience, but would it ultimately fortify her or become a source of conflict? The shadows began to creep closer again, whispering doubts into her ear. Tomorrow was set to be filled with new possibilities, but deep down, she knew that the real journey was just beginning. The journey of unveiling her authentic identity while navigating the unknown territory of collaboration and self-discovery. Amidst the uncertainty, the question loomed larger than ever. How much of her soul would she be willing to share in pursuit of a voice that was distinctly her own? As the sun graced the sky with its gentle light, a steady confidence began to swell within Kelly. The day had arrived when she would meet Jess once more, this time to consolidate their collaborative efforts into something tangible. She had spent the night reflecting on her past decisions, articulating both personal fears and aspirations, and it dawned on her, she was ready. With each step toward their meeting place, a quaint cafe brimming with creativity, Kelly felt the weight of her journey pressing upon her. This collaboration wasn't just a chance for artistic expression. It was a profound challenge to embrace her vulnerabilities and weave them into a narrative that transcended her own experiences. As she entered through the door, Jess's familiar face lit up, a beacon of encouragement ready to guide her into the next phase of their shared endeavor. The dialogue flowed like a vibrant stream, the pair diving deep into themes of resilience, pain, and the dynamic nature of healing. Ideas sparred and blossomed into something intricate and beautiful. Kelly felt her voice resonating through each exchange, merging seamlessly with Jess's insights. It wasn't just about finding common ground. It was about amplifying their distinct narratives to evoke a richer understanding of humanity's complexities. With a shared enthusiasm, they unveiled the foundation of their project, an exploration of the fragile yet powerful moments in their lives, brought to life through photography and prose. For the first time, Kelly felt a sense of ownership, not only of her story, but of the collaborative narrative they were crafting together. Their chemistry inspired creativity, and with every topic broached, she embraced the discomfort of vulnerability, aware that this was where true growth lay. It was thrilling and liberating, but that familiar strain of doubt crept back as they finalized the details. Would her authenticity shine through? In moments of silence, she would catch herself wondering whether her contributions were valid, whether she was deserving of this venture. Yet beneath those insecurities lay an unwavering resilience, the realization that she had conquered her internal battles before and could do so again. As they prepared for their first public presentation, a perfect fusion of voice and vision began to emerge. Kelly, with her lens in hand, instinctively captured the essence of Jess's words, translating them into visual stories that conveyed the weight of their journeys. Each photograph represented not just an image, but emotions they had both felt and faced. She found herself exploring symbols. The juxtaposition of light and shadow in her images mirrored the stark contrasts found within their narratives, a dance of vulnerability and strength. Days passed, her anticipation growing. But amid her excitement, a voice nagged at her, urging self-sabotage. During a sleepless night, the voice escalated into a roar. What if you mess up? What if your work isn't enough? Kelly nearly succumbed to that darkness. But when morning arrived, she found herself staring at her photographs. The laughter of children, the haunting solitude of weathered benches, the tear-stained faces reflecting resilience. Those images spoke not only to her growth, but also to her story's intertwining journey with Jess's. On the day of the presentation, a crowd slowly gathered, faces reflecting curiosity, skepticism, hope, and everything in between. Standing alongside Jess, Kelly felt her heart beat in sync with a realization that took her by surprise. This wasn't about performance, it was an opportunity to share their truth. Each image was a window into their hearts, their growth displayed without filters. As their stories unfolded, Kelly held her breath, acutely aware of every gaze focused on them. Hearts began softening. Laughter erupted at joyful moments, and sympathetic nods echoed through tales steeped in uncertainty and hardship. The audience connected, resonating with the emotions carefully woven into each frame. At that moment, Kelly felt the gravity of what they had created, a testament to overcoming the barriers she had once erected around herself. Finally, when it came time to close, she decided to step forward, her voice unwavering as she expressed heartfelt gratitude to Jess, the audience, and most importantly, herself. This journey was born from fear, but what we created emerged from vulnerability, connection, and love, she stated, the conviction in her voice cutting through the crowd. Today, I stand not just as a photographer, but as a storyteller who dared to step beyond the comfort zone. The applause that followed enveloped her like a warm embrace. People shared their reactions with enthusiasm, echoing how deeply they had felt the stories conveyed. In that moment, doubt transformed into confidence. The triumph of her journey coalesced into an undeniable fact. She had succeeded in breaking free from the confines of self-doubt, while also forging authentic connections. That night, as she sat in her cozy living room, she reflected on everything that had transpired. Kelly felt an overwhelming sense of achievement wash over her. She had navigated through fear and contention, finally embracing her identity as not only a mother, but also an artist and storyteller. She had conquered her internal struggles, proven herself worthy of recognition and respect. No longer was she shackled by her previous roles. She had become the author of her own story, an arc that shaped her into the woman she had always longed to be. As each day unfolded, Kelly drew strength from the connection she had established with herself, her past, and her future. The canvas of her life now held rich color, the hues of courage, honesty, and authenticity. She had transformed her fears into artistic fuel, and more significantly, she had learned to trust herself. Kelly smiled softly, basking in the glow of her accomplishments, her heart brimming with fulfillment. She had sculpted her dreams into reality, proving that the line defining her failures could indeed shift toward a life of thriving and remarkable possibilities. The world awaited her next moves, and for the first time, she was ready to embrace the vast expanse before her. Now, dear audience, this is your chance. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, ensuring these heart-stirring journeys continue to reach those in need. Comment below your reactions and theories about Kelly's incredible journey. And remember, you need to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who have faced their own struggles and need to see this transformative conclusion. Show your support for the powerful narratives of overcoming that only true fans wholeheartedly understand.